Okay, so we're recording now the $1 million story, but we had missed the beginning. Sorry. So the rabbi is telling him, I would love to come to your wedding, but I want to share a very special story at your wedding. And you have to give $1 million for me to share that story because the story is worth $1 million. So Dovi smiled and said, Rabbi, I would have loved to give it to you, but I don't have $1 million. He said, okay, I'll agree for $10,000. And he says, he didn't know what to answer. He was like so shocked and he was so embarrassed. So the rabbi said, okay, you know what, we'll make a deal. You know, after the wedding, people always make Sheva Brachot. For 7 days, you have a special party and you say special blessings and so on. So one of the Sheva Brachot celebrations, I would like you to invite me to the party and I'll share a story and I'll share that story for free. Agreed? He said, sure, agreed. I didn't mention girls, but you do know what does it mean, $1 from the Rebbe, right? You know that the Rebbe used to give out dollars. It was something very, very special. And people would go, the Rebbe would give $1 to encourage people to give tzedakah. Usually people would not give the dollar they got. They would put it for safe as a bracha, as a blessing, as something very special. And then they would give other dollars for tzedakah. And this way the Rebbe encouraged people to do acts of goodness and kindness. The Rebbe gave many blessings. We all know many, many beautiful stories, true incidents that happened with giving of the dollar. Okay, the wedding day came. Rabbi Meshikowski came to Dovi's wedding, and it was really nice. He came to the wedding, and they danced, and it was really, really, really nice. And then he said to him, I'll see you at the Sheva Brachot. They prepared a very nice Sheva Brachot. And the rabbi got up and he decided that he's gonna soon say the story. So now we have a story in a story because we know that Dovi invited the rabbi to the wedding. Dovi got married. And now the rabbi gets up and he wants to say a story. So now Dovi is relaying to us the story. Dovi said that before he got married, him and Chani decided that they will, remember this is all the story that this rabbi is saying now at the wedding. This bride and groom that were getting married, they decided that they will live a very simple life of simplicity. They're going to live in Netanya. They're going to have a simple house. Dovi is going to study in the kollel, like a yeshiva for married men. And Chani, the bride, his future wife, she will work a teaching job, and they will live a simple life, so they will have enough. And as he's saying the story, he's saying that he was studying and he put a lot of effort in studying, but the place where he was studying next to it was also a yeshiva for young students. And he noticed that many of the young students were very, many of them weren't interested in learning. They would not come on time, they would make jokes, so on and so forth. And what did the management do? What did the headmaster do? You know, that was the idea. You expel them from school because you want to keep the integrity for the better students. Hi, Zoya. And he didn't know what to do. It really, really bothered him. And he says he was all like confused what to do. And then he decided that he must do something about those boys. So he rented like a little house. He took like a little house and he said he will take some time of his day to teach those boys. And he started doing it. Then he realized, well, he has to pay rent for that little house where he's teaching the boys. So he had to do a little bit of fundraising in order to pay the rent. And then more boys wanted to come, and he couldn't teach it himself. So he asked for other people to help him teach. And then he needed a bigger apartment, and then more rent and more fundraising and more. And then all of a sudden he realized in a short time that he was so busy. He didn't have time to study by himself anymore, very little bit. And most of his time he had to teach those boys and fundraise and so on and so forth. He was very little bit at home. And although he was teaching all those boys and he was so happy with their growth, he realized that their life was very different than they thought it will be. And he became very, very sad because his wife was extremely unhappy. And everything that they mapped out, that they're going to be doing this and this, they had a whole schedule and a whole plan that they're going to be a simple life, they're going to do their own stuff. It was all over. Everything was very different. And he knew that he had to do something about it. They had to talk about it because their relationship was becoming not good, too much stress. So one day he realized he must resolve it. So he said to Hani, let's go out. Let's go for a picnic. Let's go out and we will see what to do. We'll discuss it and we'll decide. Either we'll both decide that we are continuing with our life the way it's now, and I am not doing my regular stuff, just studying. Hello, Loredana. I will continue
dear.
with,
I'm parking the car. I'll
teaching
just
those
be a
boys,
moment.
doing
Thank you.
fundraising, saving the lives of all of those boys that are being unfortunately expelled from yeshiva, and then who knows what happens to their lives. As those principals that I spoke to, they told me, who are you to worry about them? You are a young man, just leave them alone. But he knew he cannot do it. He felt so bad. And if his wife agrees, fine. And if not, then he will, if she doesn't want, then he'll have to give it up. And hopefully somebody's going to pick up that yeshiva or not, but he doesn't know what to do. Remember, this is all a story that this rabbi is saying at the Sheva Brachot, Rabbi Mishikowski. And he's saying, okay, so we came to the, he's saying like he came to this young man, right? He came to the park. They were sitting by a stream of water. It was, a waterfall was coming down and putting water in the stream. It looked really nice, very calming, very beautiful. And they were sitting there. And the way they were sitting is that the young man was sitting across the water, looking at the water, and the young lady was sitting with her back, right? Because the way they were sitting on the bench, on a little picnic table. And from the corner of his eyes, the young man all of a sudden sees a red bundle, something in the water, a red bundle. And he's looking and he can't figure out, is that a backpack? Is that a blanket? What is that little red bundle in the water? And then all of a sudden, without saying a word, he jumps into the water with his clothes, with his shoes, and runs to that little red bundle and takes it out of the water. Thank goodness the red bundle came towards him. And lo and behold, what was he holding in the red bundle? It was a little baby girl, probably not older than a toddler. And the baby was swallowing water and grasping and crying and trying to breathe and the whole thing. And then he calmed her down. The young wife came running right away. And she took the blanket that they had from the picnic. She covered little baby. She tried to calm her down. She calmed her down. And then they're saying, wow, probably, because it looks like it just happened because the baby thing that was alive. She just swallowed lots of water, so it probably was minutes or seconds that the baby fell into the water, and there's no family around. There are no adults around. That means that nobody realized that the child left the scene of the family and fell into the water. So they said, okay, let's try walking towards inside of the park and let's see who we meet. And as they're going inside more, they see a large group of people, probably perhaps siblings, cousins of this little thing. And they are, everybody's talking and this, and nobody's paying attention to them. And then all of a sudden, people are watching this man standing there, and the man is all sopping wet, and he's holding this little child. Everybody stopped talking, watching the man with horror eyes. And the mother of the little girl was there. She realized that that was her baby. She started shrieking and screaming, and she ran, she grabbed her child, kissing her and screaming and thanking Hashem and going. Can't even imagine her feelings. She realized that this man was all wet. It was obvious that he took, and the child was all wet, that he found the child in the water, and they didn't even realize that the child ran away. And she said, how can I ever thank you? How can I ever thank you? She's crying, how can I ever thank you? How can I thank Hashem enough? How can I thank your wife enough? How can I thank you enough for what you have done? And she's screaming and screaming and talking. And this is all this rabbi is saying, right? This Rabbi Mashikowski is saying about himself, right? When he got married. He's saying it at Dovi's wedding. It wasn't Dovi, obviously. It was this rabbi speaking. And this rabbi is saying that he was standing there, and all of a sudden he hears how the mother is saying to somebody in the family, please go to my car. Remember, it was in Netanya, right, with the water there. Please go to my car and bring me my wallet, bring me my purse. So the rabbi started saying, no, I'm never going to take any money for this. I did a mitzvah of saving a child's life. Like, thank you. The mother didn't listen. She opened her purse and she took out a crisp US dollar bill. And the store was in Israel, correct? So she didn't try to give him $1 who at the time was worth 4 shekel. She told him, and he says, no, I don't want anything. And she said, you have to understand, the mother is telling this man to this rabbi, right? The rabbi is relaying the story at the Sheva Brachot. You have to understand, the lady is telling the man, the rabbi, that this is a very special dollar. This is not an ordinary dollar. This is the most precious, the most expensive things, the most precious thing that I own. We're not talking about people, right? About family. We're talking about things that you own. She says, this is the most precious thing that I own. $1 that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave me on his own, to me, into my hands. And this is what I want to give you as thanking you in saving my daughter's life. And this man says, I really don't want anything. You have to understand, the rabbi says in the story that he told the lady, that I'm not a Chabad Chassid. I understand that the Rebbe means a lot to you. I know that the Rebbe is a very holy man, a very special man, very special tzaddik, a very special righteous person. And his dollar means a lot to you, but it means so much to you. It means to you so much more than it means to me. I really think you should keep it. And he kept on arguing with her. And he says that the mother looked at me and she gave me that look that only Jewish mothers can give. And she told me, you take this dollar and keep it. And I promise you that this dollar is going to bring you a lot of hatzlacha, a lot of success, a lot of bracha, a lot of clarity, a lot of happiness and success by you knowing what you want to do in life to succeed, to do the right thing. And keep it. And he says, I couldn't tell her no anymore. And I took the dollar. And now as Rabbi Mashikowski is standing there, he pulls out, as he's saying the story, right, at the wedding, he pulls out from his pocket a crisp US green dollar bill. And he says to the people, you should know that I'm carrying this dollar with me the whole time, besides Shabbat and holidays. It is always with me. And you have no idea how this dollar helped me to realize my mission in life. The Rebbe's life was devoted, the Lubavitcher Rebbe's life was devoted to everybody. He did not live a personal life. As we girls know, we spoke about it many times, the Rebbe would sit till 3, 4, 5 a.m. and see people from 10 o'clock at night till 4, 5 a.m. and help people. The Rebbe used to open, the mailman said that the Rebbe's in New York, it's known that the Rebbe's office got the most, I think much more than the president in Washington, mail every day. Bags and bags of post of mail would come to the Rebbe's office every day. And the Rebbe would open up the mail on his own with his hands. And the Rebbe was offered many times, to buy him an electric letter opener. They said, we're going to open the letter. The secretary says, we're going to open the letters for you. It's a lot of time. It hurts also. It's very hard. And the Rebbe said, many times when people write to me, they seal the envelope with tears. Makes me cry. And the Rebbe said, how can I open a letter that somebody sealed with their tears with a metal electric opener? I must open it with my own hands. The Rebbe would feel it. I know that it's beyond us even to understand that. And he said, I didn't have to speak anymore with my wife and decide what we should do, what is our mission in life. When I came to this park, and I came at that moment that I was able to save a little girl's life within seconds, who knows what would have happened. Hashem gave me, and then I go and I get $1 from the Rebbe. And what was the Rebbe's motto? Always to help someone else, to be selfless, to help someone, to help people's lives, so on and so forth. How was I able to live a life of simplicity and just worry about myself and learn? I knew that my mission is to save lives. So I left Netanya. I moved to Jerusalem. I opened a special yeshiva. And in that special yeshiva, one of my first students was Dovi. This Dovi that is getting married now, that was, yeah, you're right, Cheryl. For sure, Mashiach should come already. We must. And the Rebbe is everything what you said there and more. That Dovi was my first student. And I had so many students, I have so many students through the years that I brought back to Yiddishkeit. What I've done in that special yeshiva, that part of the time we were learning, and part of the time the boys were able to learn a trade, and so on and so forth. Not everybody is meant to sit in a school, to sit in a yeshiva 8, 9, 10 hours by the bench and learn. Some people cannot, but they have a Jewish soul. They deserve the best. And I realized after that story that it's my mission, because I had so much passion to save Jewish boys' lives. And if they're not able to sit in a yeshiva and they get expelled because the yeshiva think that they are not good enough to be in that yeshiva, because they want to restore it better to the students that can study a whole day and so on and so forth, I'm going to take them to my yeshiva and I'm going to teach them. And here he says how wonderful it is, nice to stand here, that the Chatan, the groom, was one of our first students when we opened the yeshiva after that incident, some years later in Yerushalayim. And then he turns to the bride and he says, it was so nice to see you today wearing a white dress, because the first time I met you, you were wearing a red dress and you were all wet. I have tears when I say that. Everybody was shocked. And the mother was standing there of the bride, wiping her tears. And she said, Rabbi, it's so nice to see you after all these years, but now at least you have dry clothes, not wet ones, when I met you years ago at the park. You can unmute, girls. Tell me what you think. Obviously, it's a true story, a very inspiring story. I think it's a story that is worth priceless, much more than $1 million. What an incident. What an amazing happening that is teaching us that everything what happens in the world has a reason. And we have to try to be as selfless as we can, obviously without forgetting about ourselves. And how we are all, yes, all interconnected. What a story. This Rabbi Meshikowski, that was such a special person, obviously, it bothered him so much that he saw those boys that are being expelled from yeshiva. He came to speak at the yeshiva, and the headmasters there told him, who are you? You're a young guy, just got married. What are you? Thank you, sir. What are you telling us that we shouldn't expel those boys? You are worried for them more than us? So he could have said, okay, why do I have to worry about them? They can be my parents and they don't worry about it. I'm just a young man, I just got married. But he felt that he has to do something for those young boys, those young teenagers that are losing themselves. And who knows, they can go to drugs, they can go to smoke, who knows what they're going to do? They're not going to yeshiva, they don't want to study, they just go on the streets. God forbid what can happen. So he started that yeshiva. But then he was consumed with it, right? And his wife wasn't happy and it wasn't a good thing. So here they decide to go to the park. And they decide to go to the park and they're sitting by the water and he's facing the water and she's sitting with the back. They could have said differently, but they sat that way. And he sees that little red bundle and he realizes that it's something that is moving and he decided to jump in because he had that feeling that he had to save. Doesn't matter, I'm going to get wet, I'm going to run the water, but he had a feeling, no, it looks like something human perhaps, and he ran. He didn't even tell nothing, he ran because he knew there is no time to waste. And he saved that little girl. And look what happens. Years later, that student that comes to study by him, that little girl's mother tells him, gives him the $1, right? And he keeps the $1 and he understands that he has to follow what the Rebbe's teaching was, although he wasn't considered himself Chabad. And we know that there are so many people that they will say, I'm not really Chabad, whatever it means to be Chabad for them, but they follow the Rebbe and they give blessings to the Rebbe and they studied the Rebbe's teaching. So what does it mean to be Chabad? To wear that hat, obviously they are Chabad, everybody is Chabad. The Rebbe was the Rebbe of the universe. The Rebbe was the Rebbe of the whole world, of the Jews and of the non-Jews. Everybody was able to come to the Rebbe, whether you were Jewish or not, whether you were Black or Hispanic or Chinese or whatever color you were. It doesn't matter. Whether you were a man or a woman or a child or an older man, everybody was able to come to the Rebbe. Everybody was able to speak. There were no differences at all whatsoever. Never, never somebody was told, no, you can't go because you're not good enough, because you're this, because you're that, because you're different nation or whatever it is. And here he decided to open the school. So then this boy was his student, and the boy, so many years later, he became a Chabad Chassid. He still remembered that that rabbi had a very big effect in his life. So he brings him the invitation, and when that rabbi is bringing the invitation, all of a sudden the last name of the bride goes, wow, is it that person that I saved? He was like going crazy. And that's why he asked him, did your mother-in-law ever got $1? And when he comes back and he tells him that my future mother-in-law got $1, he realizes the same family, right? So he tells him, I've got to tell you a story. And obviously he did not reveal the story till after they got married. And when he stands there, when I heard that story, and even when I heard it twice today to remember it. And then when I was reading it, when I was telling it to you, and when I was saying, when he looked at the bride and he says, it's so nice to see you today with a white dress. Because last time, I get goosebumps, even the fourth, fifth time I'm saying it, it's crazy. Because last time when I saw you, you were wearing a red dress and you were all wet. What a miracle story that he saved the little girl. What a miracle story that he was there, that Hashem gave him that sign. How many times we get signs, but sometimes we don't go? He could have just said, oh, it's something red. Okay, whatever, continue. I came here to speak with my wife. But we learned that the Baal Shem Tov said, Baal Shem Tov says that everything that we see and that we hear, we have to learn from it something, how to become a better person, how to do Avodat Hashem, the work of Hashem. Sometimes we can see something extremely terrible, extremely revolting, extremely cruel, and then we learn that we cannot do that. We learn to try to see who we can speak to, that this thing should stop, to learn different things. And sometimes we learn that we cannot do anything. And the only thing we can do to stop the terrible thing is to pray to God, to give tzedakah, to ask Hashem for mercy, that terrible thing should stop, or those terrible people should stop behaving like that, and so on. And many times we see things and we say, wow, I just heard my friend saying gossip. I heard it's terrible. I should not do that. I'm going to try to find a way to stop my friend, but I really cannot approach her. So I'm just going to teach myself. Sometimes I see things and I say, okay, if I saw it, I have to do something about it. I don't know exactly what to do it. So I ask the rabbi, I ask the Rebbetzin, I do this. Whatever it is, there's always ways to try to learn. And look at this amazing story, how that changes life, his passion. So he brought back on the right path the groom, and the little girl that he saved ended up marrying one of his first students. Like, this is just like amazing. And how the mother of the little girl, little did she know, who will end up marrying that little girl that the rabbi saved, she was adamant because she was so thankful. It was so special. And those moments that she saw and she knew that if not that man, that Hashem sent, that man was the messenger from Hashem to save her little child. Because if not for that man being there at that moment, who knows what would be? They didn't even realize the child was missing. Who knows by the time they would realize, who knows if they would even find her anywhere? The water could have taken her. I don't really want to say. We all understand what could have happened, what tragedy could have befall that family. So she was so shaken to the core. She was so thankful to realize that her child was saved. I mean, none of us should thank God that happened and she was saved, but nobody should have to go through something so scary. But thank goodness the child was saved. She wanted to give the man the best thing she owned. She didn't know how to thank him. And she knew the best, the most dear thing that she has is the Rebbe's dollar. Because it's something that you don't sell for money. You don't sell for nothing. It's very, very special. I own some of them. My husband does, and my older 3 children. Hani got some, Yossi got some, and Musi, I think maybe just has one. But the time Levi was born 1991, but the Rebbe was already after the stroke. And then it was, the Rebbe wasn't giving out dollars anymore. And my father should be well. Last year, Hanukkah was 2 years ago, whatever. He gave me $1 from the dollars that he had. He has, I don't know if a lot, but he had dollars. So he said, I'll give for you children Hanukkah geld, and I'll give to each one of them. He gave $1. So I have them. I didn't give it yet to the kids. I'm gonna give it to them. So because she was so touched, and that was the most. He didn't want it. She could have said, okay, but she felt she had to give it to him, and that $1 gave him that clarity. She gave him that blessing from the depth of her heart. And when he got that $1, he felt, I got it for a reason. I got it from a tzaddik, from a righteous man that did so much for everybody. How can I go back to my life in simplicity, just sit and study and not care for all those boys? And he went and he opened up such a huge yeshiva that helped so many boys. And here it is. He merited to be at the wedding of that little girl that he had saved. They didn't keep in touch at all. And how did he merit to be at the wedding of the little girl that he had saved, the little baby that he had saved? Baby was at the time a toddler, probably a year and a half or so. She was able to walk, so she ran away. Because he opened that yeshiva, and that student, the groom, was one of his first students. It's a very inspiring story, I think, for all of us, in many ways. I'm sorry, Rosie, that you had missed the story. It is recorded, but not the beginning.
That's
hopefully,
okay,
I'm
Rochel.
thinking if this Shabbat in Chabad house, maybe I should say the story, so maybe whoever will come, maybe Rosie, if you come this Shabbat, you'll hear it, because I think it's just so amazing.
That's okay.
Many lessons. How Hashem puts everything together. How Hashem is giving us the ability to save lives, to save ourselves, to help ourselves, to help our neshama, to help other neshamas. Because here Hashem's hands, God's hands in everything. He could have just missed it. And sometimes people do miss it. And hopefully not. How everything is connected. How the Rebbe is watching everyone. How that $1 that the mother had all the time in her pocket saved her little girl. The blessing was with her. And when the little girl ran away and the man came there, he was the angel from Hashem. He was the messenger. And he took that opportunity to be the messenger. Many times, there are many people. Many times we can be those angels, and we are. I know all of us on this chat, many times, and other friends, all of us are messages from Hashem, and we take that lead. We take being that angel, and we take it with a lot of humility, because we are able to save someone else, ourselves, which is very important. It's our neshama. It's a piece of God. Our children, our parents, our friends, whoever that is, with an example. It doesn't have to be to draw somebody out of the water of physical death, God forbid. Spiritual things, which are more important than physical life only. And by example, but many things. And we should be able to think of those moments that we have in life and cherish every moment we have, and life we have, and all the miracles we have. We have so many miracles in our life that we don't realize every day. You know, in the special blessing that we do in the Amida, when you are in shul and you say Modim, right? Modim, and you kind of bow down. So when the Chazan is saying, we say as well, the Modim Darabanan, the quiet part, but that blessing, Modim Anachnu Lach, we thank you, Hashem. And it's wonderful. We say, we thank you, Hashem, Al Nisecha Al Niflaotecha Shebechol Yom Imanu, and all your wonders and your miracles that are every day with us. How many times we drive in the car and you go, oh, if I only made the wrong turn, this car almost went into me, this almost happened, this, and many times we don't realize. We don't realize that we had so many miracles that we were saved from. How many times you walk Now it happens to me, and I almost tripped. God forbid, if I only tripped, what would have happened to me? My husband, I don't know, maybe some of you saw, maybe not. He's wearing like a little thing on his hand. Last week, he came, he was away for a while in New York. Came back, he said, okay, I'm going to exercise. You're out of town, you eat bread and sandwiches and whatever. It's restaurants and food. I gained weight, I'm going to be healthy. He started riding his bike to Chabad. And he did nothing wrong. He's riding his bike, and somebody who had a truck, like right before Chabad, somebody had a truck and they were loading stuff off. So they had that ramp. They didn't put the ramp back. And it was very camouflaged with with the pavement. You couldn't really see it. And Rabbi went on it and he fell. And the owner ran out of the truck. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't put it in. I told the rabbi, probably if you lived in the States, you could have made a lot of money. But anyway, he says, well, I'm going to go sue him now. The rabbi fell really bad. Thank goodness he didn't break anything. Didn't break his head, didn't break nothing, but his right hand was injured very much, was very swollen, very painful. We bought stuff, he put ice, he put whatever, it cost us a lot of money, all the stuff for it. Thank God it wasn't a fracture, but it was, strong stretch. The tendons is still hurt. He still cannot really do many things with the right arm, even to put on tefillin with the other one. It's hard the first days, my son had to help him put on the tefillin and so on. Thank goodness he's okay. Thank goodness nothing worse happened. So instead of complaining, oh, I hurt my arm, and I know he doesn't want my hand, it was the palm of his hand because he fell on it, we're so thankful it wasn't my head. And nothing broke, and I can still continue with my daily life as much as possible. Obviously, the first few days were very difficult, but then it's okay. But we don't have actually to hurt ourselves to thank Hashem, but we know Hashem is giving us the miracles. So I would like to finish. I was very inspired by the story. It's just amazing. And again, every time I say, I feel like crying when the rabbi says to the bride, and I hope you don't mind me repeating it again. It was so nice seeing you today in a white dress than the first time I met you in the red wet dress, in the red bundle. Like, just imagine the intensity in the room, the power in the room when he revealed to the bride, to the parents, everybody, that he was the one that said, because he was just saying a story, right? He was just talking this and this and this, and as he was getting closer, obviously the mother, they understood where he's getting at. Amazing. We should all be inspired to do good, to be thankful, to be grateful, and we should all have a wonderful week full of blessings. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will wish him speedy recovery from all of you. Thank goodness he's so much better. And he didn't give up. He didn't give up to ride a bike, although now he's still not allowed. He can drive. It's a little bit hard, but driving is not as bad. And we should be able to, thank you, Lord, we should be able to see with our own eyes Hashem's blessings, Hashem's miracles, Hashem's goodness and kindness to us with the coming of Mashiach, with the merit of Mashiach, because so soon already we're starting the month of Elul, and Rosh Hashanah is coming. Thank you, girls. Mushka, I'm finishing.
Thank you.